and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. So today, before we kick it off with our very special guest, let's go to our usual Patreon question of the day, which is, what is a new skill or hobby that you want to learn this year?
For Marcus and I, we both made this kind of agreement in 2024. We're going to go back to school. We want to just either get a certificate or start a degree program or something. But
no, we're going all the way back. We don't have to have something with...
Are you going for your master's?
We'll go all the way with it. Yeah, sure. Doctorate.
We haven't figured it out yet.
Doctorate in philosophy. That's what I want to go after.
But we want to learn something new. We just haven't figured out exactly what it is.
Real estate.
We do. That is another thing.
Okay, so check it out. Yeah, go ahead.
I took real estate classes in 2008. Finished all of the classes and never took the test.
We'll say the story of Mom. Say why you never got to take the test.
Huh? Oh, I didn't take the test because of Hunter.
It's your fault.
Yeah, throw it on the kid.
It's all of Hunter's fault. I was at the place to take the test. I had just signed in, and they tell you have to turn off your phones and everything. I was just about to turn off my phone, and I get a text, like multiple texts from Hunter's school, that he had been in an accident and I needed to meet them at the hospital. Wow. So Hunter was playing football, not in a game or anything, just being silly, just before school. throwing the ball before school or whatever. And he was playing barefoot on a muddy playground, and his foot slid underneath chain link and it ripped into the top of his foot, and he had to get stitches. So I never went back after that. Hunter got stitches, and that's it. It's been since 2008, and I need to go. I just want to finish it. It's finishing something I started.
The curve already.
Yeah. 2024 finished what you started something. So he started his scuba diving calls.
Nice.
Wow.
And didn't finish up. But our youngest have come of age now, so we're all going to go back and get it done.
Yeah.
That's been on our list too. We
I actually have a friend that has a scuba diving
school
class.
Tap, we're all going together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all of our friends go scuba diving. They go on these trips to all these great destinations. I mean, I think that'd be something worthwhile pursuing for sure. I've always wanted to get my pilot license.
Oh, that's
I got
neat.
a buddy who's doing that. He started, he hadn't finished it. Matter of fact, Trey, if you're listening, your ass has to finish. You got to get your wings by the time 2024 is over.
Are you going to do it?
I mean,
He's got a couple flying hours.
got some.
You've already been
hours.
up?
I've been up.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you got to. Come on, man.
I come from a long line of pilots.
That's even worse. So you don't want to be the guy at the damn reunion that doesn't have it.
Generation that hasn't done it. And,
you need to do it.
Dude, okay, so I ran across another one of you. I'm sorry I talk like that, man, but I was thinking you got you pilots, so your own thing with the wings and all that stuff like that. He was third generation, and he was in the middle of it. He hadn't finished, and he goes, when I go back for like Christmas, I get reminded.
Every year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you need to do that.
I sit at a table every Friday with a bunch of pilots, and they talk about this stuff.
I mean, it's exhilarating. I mean, I don't know. Have y'all ever been up?
No, I have no interest.
You ever been in a little Cessna?
Bro, I'm underworld. I'm underwater, man. I can't. And then there's beach right here. Okay, so
I like my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh
Yeah.
man, those little Cessnas are that's the one thing that's I got to get over. You know, it's just being in that little small plane. But
Yeah.
if I can get past that.
see, I think like if we got into that, like the speed flying, the Red Bull flying.
Oh yeah.
If you got comfortable actually doing that, I don't think you get me out of there.
Man, my grandpa had a Stearman. You know what a Stearman is? It's those old biplanes.
Oh, I checked.
It's like an open air. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like crop dusters.
Yeah, just an open air biplane, kind of like the Red Baron. He would take me up when we were kids and do loops, all kinds.
You guys
of
didn't
stuff.
care. I mean, they flew the
He was a
mess
World War
out of
II
those
pilot,
planes.
and
That's
he was
crazy.
he was also pilot for Harry Truman, presidential pilot.
Oh my gosh, how
Really?
He
cool.
worked his way all the way up to
that's a great story, man.
one of the.
Is he
top
still around?
pilots. No, he passed away when I was 17 or 18, and a guy that I admired my whole life. I mean, he's a guy that I looked up to, helped raise me. and he had more flight hours than any pilot in that era.
Wow.
Because he was not a lot of combat, but he was flying airplanes from the United States over to the theaters of war on both theaters, over to Germany and the Pacific. And so he was certified to fly every single kind of plane that the military had.
Wow.
And he would just constantly be shuttling these planes back and forth to put onto the front lines. And so he racked up all these hours. He had the most experience of any pilot. And so he was chosen to be Harry Truman's pilot.
How cool is that?
Back in the day, before all these electronics and stuff like that, like a pilot was like a driver. I mean, there's some people, everyone can do it. But there are people who are really good at it and are smooth at it. Like you wouldn't even tell you were in the air. And then there's some, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Like those are the guys that you wanted.
Yeah.
No matter how much combat, I was like, hey man, how he flies is so smooth. You don't even know you've left the ground or touched it.
Yeah, I wish I would have been in that situation. When the only time I remember is when we were going up in the Stearman and it was not smooth.
No, those are no.
It was.
I think that's like a roller coaster for enjoyment outside, kind of.
Yeah,
for sure.
But no, grew up on military bases. Dad was Air Force officer, so moved all around the country. Lived in Hawaii, lived in Montana, Ohio, and then ended up in Texas.
We're at in Hawaii.
Honolulu.
All right, yeah.
Hickam Air Force Base.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I know it well.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful place. Fortunately, I remember it was my earliest childhood memories, but got back over to the States, came to Texas when I was, I guess, 6 or 7, and then floated around from there. Ended up back in the College Station area where my dad's from Hearn, which is just outside.
That's where my people from.
Yeah,
Really?
that's his people are from Hearn.
No way.
His mom was born in Hearn.
I bet
wow.
they
Sure-
I bet a lot
sure
of
we're
them know each
related.
other.
Oh yeah,
I got the book in the house.
you might be cousins.
Yeah, I got the lineage in the house. If you want to check it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy in a small world.
His
You have no idea. Well, yes, you probably do. Yes, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry. I see this in here, man. This is a little wisdom coming in. I mean, yeah.
It's Robertson County, and so he dad was an Aggie, so he ended up going back to after he retired from the Air Force. He went to work for the university for the Corps cadets, and did public relations there.
If she, yeah, I got like.
You gonna do the Corps cadets?
Not Corps cadets, but I've been going.
Future Aggie.
I have.
Okay.
I'm already committed.
Nice.
I love
Nice.
station
Congrats.
and everything.
Congrats.
So, thank you.
Did you know, fun fact, little Texas tidbit here, that Hearn, I believe it was Hearn or Caldwell, was supposed to be the home of A&M?
Really?
Yes.
No, did not
It's
know
either
that.
Hearn or Caldwell. But they were supposed to actually build the university there, and somewhere, it got vetoed. Like the town vetoed it, and they ended up having to put it in Bryan, College Station. And at the time, whether it was Hearn or Caldwell, was a booming town.
Yes.
And after the choice to make the university move, it actually
Bet they regretted that.
yeah, it fell. The economy
town fell
fell.
apart.
Yeah.
Yep.
They vetoed it because it was booming so much, and they thought that the presence of a university would just bring in too many kids and all that kind of stuff, and they didn't want it. But it ended up being a horrible decision for them.
It's a great university.
Yeah.
They just put a new road in over here. I can get there in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I know.
Aggie Expressway.
How great is that thing?
Oh, it's awesome.
And it's called the Aggie Expressway.
It's awesome.
These are a bunch of. I'm married into a den full of tigers. So your LSU Tigers in here.
right here.
Yeah, same here. I'm married into them as
Yep.
well. And then, but A&M on my side.
Yep. Yep. You guys are both of y'all from Willis or
Just
I'm
this dude
from
right here.
Louisiana. Yeah.
Louisiana? Okay. She was born in Bossier City, so
Oh, nice. I was born in Opelousas.
we actually moved to Houston from. We were living in Shreveport before we moved to Houston. But yeah, I guess if you would say I was from anywhere, it would be College Station. That's where I went to high school.
Yeah.
Did some college there.
I remember growing up, I thought Bryan College Station was one town.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean,
It basically is.
It is, but if you're from
Why do they call
there,
it College Station? Because there's a college there. That's where it's stationed. It's a military kind of term, right?
Right.
That's how it works.
If you're from there,
Texans will throw you off with our verbiage.
She's from Iola. You ever heard of a little
Oh, yeah,
town
we
called
drive-
Iola?
We drive through it every time we go to our family ranch.
Hold
The
on.
football coach's daughter works for Morgan, or he was the football coach. Landry. She, Viola. Yeah. She's who answers the phone when you call Congressman Luttrell's office in Washington, D.C.
In D.C., Senator in D.C.
Yes.
Washington, D.C.?
Yes, she's up there.
She moved to
I may-
D.C.
I may
and
have to
she
meet
is
her.
from Iola. And
She's the first thing you
has
see when you walk in the office.
the strongest accent, and I love it. And I think that's
why he put her there.
He picked her.
I mean, other
You like
reasons,
the
yeah, but
accent.
that's right. Yeah, of course, there's other reasons, but I mean,
Just because she's from Iola.
And not many people know about Iowa.
Little
honestly.
We were
town.
there yesterday. Tell us how you settled in Magnolia and when y'all met and about your kids and everything.
So what brought me to Houston was I'm in the residential construction industry, and my brother was working down here for a builder, and I was finishing up school up at Texas A&M Commerce, and was working for a builder out there as well, and he basically helped me get a job down here so I could be closer to family and make more money, and so that's what brought us to Houston. We kind of when we first moved here. We moved to Spring, and so we lived in Spring, Texas first. Then we lived in Tomball, and then we've been back in Spring for maybe 12 years, 13 years.
Yeah.
And so own a business here in Magnolia, and we just
New
fell in love.
Magnolia or old Magnolia?
Well, it's kind of all over Magnolia. In fact, it was.
It's your mafia.
It's in fact it's
Because we live in the best spot. Those towns you named are all great.
we've actually,
I feel like we're old country out here, man. It's awesome.
It's great. The people out here, we love working with them. We actually moved our offices to the Woodlands, but it's
How about
it's
that
all-
place?
I mean, it's
The way that
great.
thing's grown up?
It's
That mall, the way that whole town with the river walk and everything is amazing.
Oh, it's
over there.
incredible.
Eggs
They're
on
they're trying to do
World,
that in Spring.
Eggs on World, whatever
Yeah,
that is.
Springwood.
over there.
Springwood.
They're trying to duplicate that in Springwoods, which is just technically Spring, but it's all one big place. But yeah, it's
That place is unbelievable.
It
when you
is.
some of the
Talking about
structures,
Exxon?
Yeah.
that whole the structures when you walk in there and the size of that building with the waterfall,
it
looks like
is-
something out of the Avengers.
It is next world.
Probably what it's from. Actually, knowing the Exxon boys, they probably built that to specs.
That thing is it's like the eighth wonder of the world, man. It's
it's
the
pretty
money
nice.
that Exxon has. Oh man, it's incredible.
Back in the day, the towns.
business,
Yeah, go ahead.
what business do you have?
We do outdoor living, which is basically just custom backyards. Everything
cool.
from pools to patios to outdoor kitchens and just kind of the backyard, the outdoor living,
Yeah.
trying to improve people's quality of life. I mean, a lot of people want to, especially here in Houston, want to live outdoors and be in their backyard and be outside. And so we just kind of build them a space that,
So, can you help them with the idea, or do they have to have one?
no, we do all the design
Everything?
for them. I mean, we have some great designers that do
So
the
you
3D
can go into
modeling.
Mr. Miyagi, the backyard, like you can.
Man,
Is that what you're talking about?
that's- yeah,
Is that what you're
so-
telling me? Because if you're
Speaking
telling me
of-
that, bro, if I'm speaking your language,
You're definitely speaking Miyagi. I was
right.
born in Okinawa. So,
Okay.
my dad was.
I actually knew that. That's why I threw that. I just play it like that, bro.
That's in the class.
Yeah, it's intense, right? That's my file right there.
Yep. But no, it's I would love to build something like that. We've had
That's
some,
Marcus's dream.
Bro.
I mean, dream to
The-
have something like Mr. Miyagi's tea garden thing.
The backyard from Count of Monte Cristo when he comes down in there, and then the Miyagi backyard. You splice those two things together, it'd probably be a place to.
Yeah, that's and then we'll
You'd
throw
never
some of the
wanna
Exxon
leave.
in there too.
Yeah, right. That's in the front. That's what protects it. And when you walk behind,
We
you see the
need
rest
sponsors for that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's so funny. Hunter took a class in landscape design at LSU.
Did landscape architecture.
Yeah. He was.
That's pretty fun.
That is
Yeah.
pretty
of it.
cool.
It's fun. It's called hard work. I did it my whole life.
I started down that road. I started down that road of architecture and School of Architecture and all that, and I just I enjoyed it, but I don't think I would have been able to make a career out of it and sitting. I like to be outside too.
Yeah.
I like to be outdoors, and so sitting there on a computer all day just wasn't in my future. But
Yeah.
That's how you know there's a different type of human. We're different. There's some of us down here can't do that.
It takes a special person.
It's that we physically cannot do it, but the whole thing that goes into being able to sit there and repetitively do that over and over
day in,
again,
day out,
day in, day
for
out.
years.
That's right.
It takes a special individual. and we need those
And
individuals.
I never talk smack. Right, you exactly. We need it. Never talk smack about it. I'll keep my ass outside with you. We'll do the hard work.
Yep.
As long as you do yours, and we keep that mutually exclusive
They're the
respect.
ones that have the vision, man, and they and then people like us just make it happen. But it's
What's the name of your business?
Magnolia Patio and Pool.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
one of the highest rated in the area. So we
Awesome.
take a lot of pride in what we do. But been in business 14 years. But you know, the whole team never quit mindset started for me when really when we lost our daughter and our 16-year-old. And it was at that point where I realized how short life is, and you only get one shot at this life. And you know, I was like, I've seen a lot of my friends that were way less smart than me, weren't as hard as workers as me, doing way bigger things. And I was like, why can't that be me? You know, and so that's when I really decided to grow my company, and things really took off for it. And at the same time, we were also building a foundation in our daughter's name. And so kind of doing that simultaneously over the last 6 years. But it's
I talk to a lot of men when we get into situations, and they ask themselves that question. It's almost like a program in there. That when that freaking phrase pops up in your window, then you know you've hit a shift.
It was like a light switch went off, you know, or on. Is it off or on?
On.
Went on.
It came on.
I mean, it just it's like an awakening, man, and it going through something as tragic as losing a child. It just set a fire. It just set off a fire inside of me.
Do you mind going into the story of what happened with her?
No, not at all.
Well, I think they wanted us to start at the beginning. So
Let's start from the beginning.
we met, he had dated a girl in Iowa. She was a year younger than me. So we had mutual friends, but never really had met, hung out, were introduced until we did meet at a club in Bryan.
It was at a bar. It's like
At a bar.
like a good country song.
Which is not there
Met her at a
anymore.
bar.
It's closed, but
Which one was it?
it was
It was called Rodeo 2000.
Yeah.
I never made
In
it there.
Bryan. Yeah. It's long.
This was back in the 1900s too, right?
Yeah, back in the 19.
Rodeo 2000 back in the 1900s. Go, oh, yeah, right.
So we met there and just started talking and just were inseparable. And then we ended up getting pregnant with Kailee probably a year later. And so we had her in 2001. And he was trying to go to school. I was trying to go to school. I just was really struggling with, still being basically a teenager and a mom and school and all of that. And one of my teachers, they were starting a surgical tech program at St. Joseph Hospital, accreditation through them. And so I was like, that's cool. She said, you should come to the orientation. So I went. And I loved it. And I told my mom, and she was like, that has, there's blood and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah. She was like, okay. So I did it. I loved it. So that's what I did. And so I kind of supported him while he went to college. And then we actually got married when Kailee was 4. She was our flower girl.
Oh, I love that.
So, and then we kind of moved around a little bit with him getting a job and then came to
Transferring
Houston.
schools and and all that stuff. And I'll tell you, having kids, especially at a young age, it definitely gives you a whole new sense of purpose.
Oh, it changed everything.
It's a game changer. I mean, she taught me how to be a man.
And girls, the daughters are completely different.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about this earlier. It was there's when you're at home, and there's the gap, and then as soon as that kid hits the ground, you shift.
Yes.
Some people can stretch that gap out. Some people start real quick.
Yeah.
But
It's lit a fire under me.
It does,
for sure.
right?
How old
I
were
had to grow
y'all
up.
when you had her?
I was 20.
Okay.
Got pregnant with her 19, had her when I was 20.
I was 21
Yeah.
when she was born.
It is a new year with new opportunities, but have you thought about securing your family's future? Starting this year right means the peace of mind for 2024 and beyond. Picture your family covered for expenses like mortgage and college costs. Enter Policy Genius, where comparing life insurance is an actual breeze. Their licensed experts guide you through every step of the way. And hey, if you're already a Policy Genius user, share your story with us. We would love to hear what you have to say. Their tech lets you compare top insurers in just a few clicks. Even if you have work insurance, it may not still be enough. So starting at just $292 per year, you can have up to $1 million in coverage. Some options even offer same-day approval. Thousands trust Policy Genius for a brighter financial future. Go save time and money. Go head on over to policygenius.com for free quotes today. Don't miss out on securing your family's future tomorrow. That's policygenius.com, your partner in financial peace of mind.
So, and I had, took some time off, didn't finish school right away. I finished school when I was 25. So I, was kind of in and out of school. I would, take breaks to work and then go back to school, take breaks, save up a little bit, go back to school, and, eventually finished. But that girl taught me a lot about life, more than I think I would have ever taught her, as far as learning how to love somebody other than myself, more than myself. And, not that I didn't love Wendy, but it's different with kids.
They're different.
It's just
daughters are different.
Yeah.
It's especially having a daughter, and she just she was such a special kid from day one. I mean, she was the kind of person that would, even from a young age, she could talk to anybody. She was like an adult. She would go into a room and make her presence felt. She was just a outgoing, bubbly, just a light, a light in a dark room. And she just had this big personality, this big smile, loud laugh, was just larger than life. And
Yeah, she was always very witty. She was fun to pick on because she'd, just give it to you right back and just laugh.
Response.
And,
Those are the best.
Yeah.
The ones that can do that.
Yeah.
When you hit them with something, they come back at that.
Yeah.
They're fun to have around.
Yeah.
But she also didn't mind being the butt of the joke. If she had to make herself, the butt of the joke to make you laugh or smile, her whole goal in life was just to make people laugh. And I actually had an opportunity to have a really deep conversation with her the week before she passed, and I asked her, like, what do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered to your friends here in high school? She said, I just want to be somebody that was remembered by making people laugh and smile, and remembered for my sense of humor. So I mean, that's kind of how she lived her life. She just really wanted to make an impact on others. And as she got older, she never met a stranger. She was involved in a lot of things, a lot of charity organizations, volunteer hours, very involved in the church, going on mission trips and things like that. And she loved volleyball, played volleyball. She was a 4.3 GPA student, wanted to be a doctor. That's what she wanted to do with her life, is
Dermatologist.
be a dermatologist. Why did she want to be a dermatologist?
Because all girls are obsessed with skincare.
Yes,
that
that had
age.
a part of it. But have y'all seen that Dr. Pimple Popper?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Who
When she
hasn't?
found that, she was obsessed.
I haven't.
And she loved it.
I
And
haven't.
was just-
I haven't watched it. I don't watch it. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
my
Just
gosh,
because
she
when
was-
you say that, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what that is.
She was obsessed with that.
She had eczema when she was younger, and I think she just always was fascinated by curing skin stuff, and she was just really into makeup too when she got a little older.
Well, what
But,
girl isn't though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our 11-year-old is obsessed with skincare. She hasn't gotten into makeup yet, but she is obsessed with all the moisturizers and exfoliators. And I'm like, I didn't know one thing other than bar soap when I was
Right.
11.
Yeah. Yeah, me either. But I think all of them are really getting into it, and at a lot younger of an age too.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's just the world's
Yeah.
opened up.
She really just wanted to be able to help others, and she really was fascinated by skincare and wanted to be a doctor. But later in life, when she got a little older, she was serious. She wanted to go to A&M, and she wanted to start school there. I don't know where she would have ended up, but after that, but true Aggie by heart, and she went into her junior year, and it was right around the time of our son's birthday.
Yeah, his birthday is the 24th, and her accident was the 28th.
And so it was Halloween weekend, and she asked if she could go to a party with some friends, and we said sure. As long as you're not drinking, if you think that you can't handle that responsibility, if you think you can't go to this party and not drink, then don't drive. We'll take you, or you get a ride, whatever. And so we thought she was going to be driving to the party. In fact, she was getting ready. We were all getting ready. We were going to our own Halloween party with some of the parents of I coached youth football and baseball at the time, and a lot of the parents were having their own little get together, little costume party. So we were all getting ready, and she was doing everybody's makeup, and we ended up leaving, and then she was going to leave not long after us, and
yeah, her friend came over, and it was her and her friend going, and the party was only like 2 neighborhoods behind ours, and we know that family very well, and the parents, were going to be there. And
yeah, it was a mile away, or 1.1 miles or something like that. So just through a residential neighborhood, no big deal. Well, we get a call. We're already at this other party, and we have an app called Life 360. Mm-hmm. I don't know if y'all are familiar. I'm sure a lot of parents out there that are listening are very familiar with this. But we get an alert on Life 360. Actually, we got a phone call. Right, it was Leah's mom saying that the girls had been in a crash, and we looked on her phone, and it had just gotten the alert, and saw that she was just a couple blocks from our home. I mean, it was right outside of our subdivision is Rothwood Drive, and there's some baseball fields right there, and it's a 30-mile-an-hour road, and it just kind of goes between neighborhoods and kind of connects one neighborhood to another. So very dark road, but so we're like, okay, maybe she pulled out and got T-boned or something. No big deal. We're not thinking the worst. I mean, I know Wendy, you were probably panicking more than I was. Pretty calm. I was like, it was no big deal. She's trying to call Kailee and can't get her on the phone, and but I'm like, hey, just calm down. It's gonna be fine. Then we pull onto Rothwood Drive, and we see just every kind of first responder you can imagine: ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, tow trucks. All the flashing lights, and we're like, okay, this isn't just a minor deal. We jumped out of the vehicle and took off running and towards the scene. And at the time, I had a friend that worked for the fire department. I mean, he's still my friend, but he was working for the fire department. He was on the scene. His name's Dustin Krager, and he worked for Spring Fire Department. And I saw him. He knew my daughter, and I could just see the look on his face, and I knew that it was bad. And he basically was stopping me from going over there, and I was just screaming, "Where's my daughter? Where's Kailee?" And he just was shaking his head like he just couldn't tell me. He just couldn't bring himself to tell me. And I don't really remember, but I was told that I was taken to the ground by a bunch of first responders, and and then he had to break the news to me. So it just crushed me. I mean, it's the worst thing that I can imagine happening to a parent. I mean, it's a parent's worst fear, is losing a child, and just to look over and see your baby under a white sheet is just an image that I'll never forget, and it's just something that haunts us. But we didn't think it was real. I mean, I just remember Wendy the whole night saying, "This isn't real. This isn't real." And we see a car that's flipped upside down, and it was a black vehicle. She had a black vehicle, so we assumed it was her vehicle. Well, we after the hours that we were on the scene and finally waiting for the medical examiner to come and take her away, I wasn't going to leave the scene until that was all wrapped up, and then we went back to our house, which, you know, just right around the corner, 2 blocks from home, and I see her vehicle in the driveway, and I was like, and by the way, we never lifted that sheet up, so we were just going off of what we were being told, that she had passed away on the scene. And so we pull up and we're like, wait a minute, her vehicle's here. Who was that? Like, we were never told that she wasn't in her vehicle. And so at that point we're like, well, maybe this is just a big misunderstanding, you know. And then I don't know, about an hour later, the officer came and brought all her personal belongings and stuff, and her purse, her phone, or her just like a wad of cash, like some $1 and $5 bills and things, and so, you know, that was kind of that's when it was just, okay, this is real.
So she rode with a friend.
So what happened? Well, I remember when we got on the scene and you were fighting to get through, I turned and I looked to the side and I saw one of her friends. It was a guy and his mom, and they were standing there, and he just looked white as a sheep, and I was just like, why is he here? Like, how did he even know about this? I was confused, but then, you know, that like just was in the back of my mind after that. But when the officer came to the house and told us, you know, that she was in the car with other kids, she wasn't driving, she was in the back seat, then we started to get like the story. And so she didn't want to drive because I guess she was like, okay, you know, might have some drinks at the party. So she and her friend Leah called two of their friends, which were 2 guys that, you know, we've known for a long time. We're friends with them. And so they came and picked the girls up. And the driver didn't know the roads very well, so he went out the front of the subdivision and down the road, and Kailee was like, no, it's back that way. So he did a U-turn and then went down that Rothwood Road, which was very dark, very windy. And, you know, he didn't know the road very well, and so he had kind of veered off on the curb, and it, you know, it flipped.
He was going too fast around the curve, but that curve is very hard to see. There wasn't signage up. It was, yeah, I mean, it was just a dark, not really a striped road, and it kind of comes up like over this hill, and then as soon as you're there, you can't see. If you're not driving the speed limit, it's a bad deal. There's been multiple deaths on that curve, and so she wasn't the first one, and there's been others since then. So it's not. But, you know, he was going a little too fast. He went off the road. There's a driveway there with a culvert. The car hit the culvert and flipped end over end, and she was ejected out of the back window.
But she was the only one not buckled, so all the kids came over, you know, to the house afterwards, and one of them had a cut on his hand from trying to climb out the window. The other one had a little scrape, you know, like, I mean, that was it. That was the extent of their...
And, you know, she was very good about wearing her seatbelt. Something she did, she always made. I wasn't good about wearing my seatbelt. She would always remind me to put my seatbelt on when we got in the truck. And you know, all the kids had buckled up in the car when they got in the car. But when she got on Rothwood Drive, she wanted to take a selfie with her friend in the back seat. So she unbuckled to slide over in the back and took the photo. And before she had the chance to get back in her seatbelt, or maybe I don't know if she would have or not, but she had slid over to take that photo, and
that's when it happened. Just
a few seconds later, the crash happened, and so all the other kids walked away with no injuries, really. I mean, I think one of the kids cut his hand climbing out of the car, but we know she would still be here if she had her seatbelt on. It's one of those things that, you know, a seatbelt isn't going to save your life in every crash, but it certainly gives you the best chance to survive, you know, and so your odds go up exponentially if you have your seatbelt on. And so
how old was she?
She was 16.
She was 16. Oh.
Junior in high school. Very you know, popular girl, not just at her school, but just through her, you know, her work through church and volleyball and all this stuff that she was involved in. she had lots of friends at lots of schools, and so this was a big impact on the community. And the community had just 2 weeks before had lost. There was a football player that had died in a crash a couple weeks before hers, and so it was kind of it was a bad deal for the kids. A couple days later, I was out there at the scene of the crash, and we went out there to put a cross up, a wooden cross that we made. And a few hours later, got a phone call from a neighbor saying there's got to be a couple hundred kids out there at the crash site. And I said, well, let me go out there, and I'm going to go out there and talk to them. And I'm not a big public speaker. I've never been really comfortable with public speaking or anything like that, or talking in front of crowds, but I just felt like these kids needed to hear a message of how important it is to be safe in the car, and to speak up if somebody's doing something unsafe. Have the courage to, when it comes to your safety, have the courage to stand up and say something, hey, slow down, or hey, put your seatbelt on, or, look out for each other when you're in the car. So I went out there to give them a pep. They're hurting, we're hurting, and I just felt like they needed that message. And it was so well received and made such a big impact. I was like, I need to do this more. I need to do more of this. And I told them, you've got to be selfish when it comes to your safety. Be selfish about your safety. And they created this hashtag, and it kind of went wild. And then we were trying to plan a funeral for our daughter, and I was trying to make sense of it, trying to find answers. I had a million questions in my mind. How did this happen? What led to this? How did we get here? How many other people are impacted by this? How many other families are out there dealing with this kind of tragedy? And so I just, I can't sleep, I'm just doing research, trying to make sense of it. And I was like, so I did find out a lot of information that I didn't know before, and figured out how big of a problem it really is. And I was like, wow, we need some kind of ribbon to use at her funeral. There's you see all these, there's a ribbon for everything. Mm-hmm. There's a ribbon for every kind of cancer. I mean, all these different causes of death have ribbons. But I was like, this is the leading cause of death in America for teenagers and people ages 1 through 54. There's got to be a ribbon out there for it, but there wasn't. And so I created one. I just started doodling and called my graphic designer, my website designer, and said, hey, I'm going to send you some. Can you get this put in a digital format, and I'm going to get a bunch of them printed for the funeral. Well, man, we couldn't print them off fast enough. There were thousands of them. Everybody in town wanted one. They were putting them on their cars. They were putting them everywhere, and it just kind of went viral, And it was then I realized, there's such a big need for this, that I think the seatbelt message had gotten lost in the shuffle of the texting and driving, and that was really the focus of road safety was texting and driving.
They still have, I don't mean to cut you off, but they still have drivers. Remember when we were kids? It was in school. Like you had it in school.
Yeah.
It's
they
not
don't do it in school anymore.
Who removed that? First of all, that was fun when you're a student.
Yep.
And then two, it took a burden off the parents. Like, because there's the way it is now, some of that stuff we did back in the 1900s was pretty legit.
Yeah, back in the 1900s.
And we had some great messages too, right? About like, don't mess with Texas.
Yep.
Right.
Remember, that was a great one. I don't know where that went.
Yeah.
And then definitely the seatbelt one.
Mm-hmm. The buckle up.
Click it or ticket.
Click it or ticket.
Yeah.
So Click It or Ticket, which I became a spokesperson for Click It or Ticket for the state of Texas.
That next year.
The following year, they chose Kailee as the story they wanted to highlight for that campaign. And it ended up being the most successful campaign they've ever done. And so they ended up bringing us back the following year and did something different, but it was still about Kailee. And
well, that first year, as hard as it was very impactful because they would set up these bleachers, and on all the bleachers they painted white tennis shoes. So
they collected a pair of tennis shoes from every death in Texas from the families of every. So it was a pair of white shoes. They had these bleachers, and it was all set up. They were all spray painted white, and then they used Kaylee's as hers were pink, and so hers kind of stood out. But to see that visual of all these empty pairs of shoes, and people should be standing in those shoes, if they had been wearing their seatbelt. There was like 1,000 pairs of shoes, and so that's just.
I'll put like a kill switch in a car that activates with that seatbelt.
The technology's there. It's
it's got to be. We have
there.
stuff on a in a different solar system. Exactly. That's my point. Like there is a Tesla floating in space.
My car dings if even in the back seat, like if I have a heavy box or something sitting on a back seat, say like in a little thing.
And all the training that we do, all professional drivers, race car drivers, all professional pilots, first thing you do when you get in there is you buckle. When you get in the saddle,
learn to wear
is you put that on.
Yep.
I mean, it's important for sure.
Yeah, it's like this. You're gonna be in a crash at some point. I mean, most people, if you start driving when you're 16, you're going to be chances of you being in a crash by age 30 are almost 100%. And it might be a minor crash, it might be a major crash. You don't really get to decide that, but it's going to happen. And you'll probably be in a few crashes in your life. It's coming. It's going to happen. It's like getting on a roller coaster and not putting that thing down. That harness down. I mean, it's.
Well, that's a perfect example of why you want to have that on.
Yeah.
Is if you've never been on a roller coaster, if you didn't have that,
matter
of fact, you don't even step on that sucker. You make sure that thing is on there. I was when I would ride those, I
double check.
That's right. Same thing needs to apply when you jump in that car out there.
Yeah. You click it and then you pull on it. See.
Yeah, hell of it, especially if it's got a motor in it.
Yeah. And so yeah. I mean, and by the way, I know that click it or ticket is a big that has to do with enforcement. Law enforcement. It's a big push that law enforcement does. It's also raising awareness, but it's they're out there writing tickets.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Right. It goes both ways, but I understand.
That's not what we're about.
Check. I get. Yeah, I get that.
But you have to pair education.
I get it.
With enforcement to be effective.
Hey, you remember it like that too, because no one likes to get in trouble. That's why we do it like that. It's like, hey, you either deal with the cop or you deal with death. Trust me, you don't want to deal with either one of those.
Right. And honestly, I never wore my seatbelt before, and I could give two craps less about a ticket. I'll pay every ticket you can throw at me. I would pay to have my daughter back. And so I try to. That's the message that I try to when I go to speak at high schools or speak to groups of people. I try. We're coming from a different perspective. It's like who do you buckle up for at home that loves you, that's counting on you to make it home safe? It's like there's somebody that cares deeply about you.
It's time to talk about your financial wingman. Navy Federal Credit Union. As a member-owned, not-for-profit institution, Navy Federal puts you at the heart of everything they do. You can enjoy low fees, great rates, and 24/7 access to award-winning customer service. As a member, you can save up to $473 per year just by banking with them. And their savings rate is nearly double the industry average. Navy Federal members with the Cash Rewards card can even earn up to 1.75% cash back on every single purchase using the direct deposit. You can use the mobile app to redeem these rewards instantly and super easily, which is very user-friendly. It's awesome to navigate. You can learn all about this and more at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal is insured by the NCUA, and membership is required. Message and data rates may apply, and at Navy Federal, our members are the mission.
There's somebody that is depending on you to make it home, and that's why you do it. You don't do it because you're going to get a ticket.
We're really trying to get them to really comprehend and understand, and not come to them as we're talking down to them. We're really trying to really get them to think and understand why it's important, not just because you get a ticket.
Well, yeah, no, that's not it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's part of the procedure.
Mm-hmm.
There's everything that you do in every part of your life.
Yeah.
When you jump on that ride, you got to put that on.
Right.
So at what point did y'all start the actual foundation?
It was pretty
almost immediately. I mean, we applied for. I knew right away that I wanted to do a scholarship. And I didn't. The way that the foundation has evolved it wasn't the initial concept. I mean, it has evolved into way more than we ever thought it would be. But it started off as, hey, I want to do a scholarship. That was immediate. Like, that was within days. I want to do a scholarship. It's amazing what you think of when you're up for, 48 hours, or actually more. I think it was 3 days.
Yeah, that's when it comes in.
Yeah, I was up for like 3 days. I couldn't sleep, and so I'm just got all these thoughts racing through my head. How are we gonna carry out her legacy and things like that? But scholarship was one. I was like, there's money that we were gonna pay for college for her. Who are we gonna help realize their dreams in her memory? And then after talking to that group of kids on the side of the road, I realized we need to raise more awareness. We need to prevent other families from going through this tragedy. And so we threw our first big fundraiser a couple months after.
Well, someone threw a benefit for us. That was
there was
at Bareback.
A promoter. His name's Charlie Diggs. He put together this great lineup of artists that came out, and they did a lot of fundraising. They raised over $100,000, and they donated it. I mean, it all got donated to the foundation. So that was kind of our kickstart. But we were getting money coming in from all over. We're like, what are we going to do with it? Like this there's a lot of families out there hurting, so we want to prevent these tragedies, but we also want to be there when the tragedy does happen, because these tragedies are going to happen. And so we're kind of on both sides of the coin. And then we're also trying to develop our youth to grow up and become leaders, and hopefully, just by the way our scholarship is designed and the whole process, it achieves our mission by them raising awareness in their community. So, which I want to talk about the scholarship for a second.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind. It's not really about, yes, grades are important, test scores are important, but that's only about 25% of it. They have to do a campaign. They have to put together a campaign that's measurable, that they can measure their impact in their community of how many people they reached. They have to conduct surveys. They have to do social media campaigns and come up with their own creative ways of reaching people. And so, but then they also have to interview a parent or a set of parents that have lost their teenager in a car crash that wasn't wearing their seatbelts, and then they have to write an essay about it. So that whole process just it changes their lives. It's something that they never forget, and they're able to make a huge impact. Whether they're the big winner of whether they're the winner of the big scholarship, I don't think we've turned down any kid yet. I mean, everybody's gotten something for participating. But of course, there is those big scholarships. Last year, we were able to do a full ride scholarship. I hope we were able to continue that as every year. And so, yeah, that's something that we've grown. One of our programs that we've grown over the last several years. And then the family assistance thing is big. I mean, we're able to step in and help pay for funeral costs, medical costs, send care packages, just things that we know those families need, because we've been through this. So we know, and a big part of that was, I mentioned earlier that there was another kid that had passed away a couple weeks before our daughter. And his name was Tyler Spillman. And our daughter was very close with Tyler, and she was pretty tore up about it, but we didn't know Tyler. We didn't know his family. But we're at Kailee's funeral, and Tyler's parents showed up and came and introduced themselves, and they're hurting. They just buried their son the week before, and here they are at our funeral, our daughter's funeral, supporting us, and that meant the world to us. I mean, that and to be able to connect with somebody that's going through the same thing we're going through, we wanted to provide that and create that kind of community. And so that's really where the family assistance thing was kind of inspired by that.
You think you're alone?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, suffering's one thing. Suffering by yourself's completely different.
Yeah.
And that was such a game
you have
changer.
a lot of support, of people, but until you have been in that position,
Sure.
like you don't really know,
Y'all part of a club. Everyone try. I mean, we don't talk about it.
Right.
Well, I think it's brilliant. Use like the scholarship as an incentive to keep your friends alive
Yes.
and strangers. I mean, just there's
champions.
there's no better advocate for that than other young people.
You know who preaches that?
So
5 and 6-year-olds, first graders, second
They're the
graders.
most. They're the best.
The best.
The best.
You hit them with that, and they take it straight to the house. That's all they have to talk about.
Yep.
All they have to talk, and then they remember it is that it's the one thing that gets stuck in their head.
I love.
Same way with us. They
love
hit us
that.
with those certain little deals, but at that, because the whole big screen's new to you and all the verbiage coming in, that's when you get them with
Those
that.
kids are the most passionate.
They are.
And they're the best salespeople.
Best salespeople. They'll talk to strangers. They'll yell at somebody. Hey, Bucky, you see, because it's good for you.
This year we have an amazing crew that works for our foundation, and they really got into the elementary schools. Like this year, I think was probably our biggest.
Yep.
And those kids were so on it, and they would go home to their parents, and some way we would meet some parents, and they're like, oh my gosh, like my kid,
They won't shut up about
They
it.
won't shut up about it. That's what they say. They'll say it straight up. Like,
And they get to tell their parents what to do.
Yeah.
You need to wear your seatbelt.
yell at them.
yeah. And when
Usually
you're
sell it
hearing
like that.
from
It's
a
like if you've ever wanted to
7-year-old,
yell at your parents at a young age, these are the things you can actually get away with.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Do it respectfully,
Right.
sir, ma'am, but
Right.
absolutely.
No, it made it like even that much more, impactful, and ways for us to get to those adults who, are a little bit more stubborn.
Yeah. So it's like, if you can convince a 6-year-old, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, I mean, it's gonna affect everybody around them. They're gonna take it to their friends, their family. Our school program is something we're very proud of. I mean, last year we were able to hit a milestone of getting at least one school district in all 50 states on board with our school program. And so now that we're pretty much nationwide with the school program, now we just need to grow that, and we want to be in every school. So that's our ultimate goal.
So do you have like a book on it, or what does the school program?
Well, there's different
It's like
levels.
school, going through the school board and come down
Yeah,
through.
so you have to get approval from the school,
Yeah.
and then we have speakers that go. There's a little video.
There's a virtual.
And then
There's
we
a
also
virtual
have-
program. There's also a live in-person program.
And we have little coloring books and little
Contests.
yeah,
coloring
little coloring
contests.
contests, like just things like that.
Poem. We had a poem contest last year
Yeah,
that was
there was
real,
one that was-
real successful.
They were actually really good.
And I mean the another thing we do in high schools is seatbelt checks, and I think this is really cool because it gets the some of the student organizations, student council, student HOSA, which is I don't know if you know what that is, but it's basically the future
health.
doctors and people that are going into the healthcare industry. These student clubs and organizations. We have the blueprint, and we'll go out and train them on how to do this, and partner with law enforcement, whatever law enforcement agency is kind of over that school district. Sometimes there's a parent that has lost a kid that those kids know, and we get them involved to where. So basically, what it is we go and we take statistics. It's like a blind study of how many kids are wearing their seatbelts when they leave the parking lot of their high school,
Yeah.
and then we do the school program. And then we go back and we do another observation to see what the impact was. When we first started it, it was more of a public. It was kind of more of I wouldn't say public spectacle, but it was more of a public thing where we had parents and students walking through the parking lots as the kids are waiting to get out of the parking lot. Talking to them, and it just was kind of chaos, and it was impactful, but it was like, all right, let's rethink this, and so. So these seatbelt checks are now really designed to see what the impact of our program is, and usually by the time we're done with the school program, it makes such a big difference. I mean, the percentage of and the increase in seatbelt use is.
Oh, you got to incentivize kids. It's like, hey man, if
You do.
like put that camera at the end, it's like if you guys go 3 semesters or 3 months with everyone wearing seatbelts, we'll give you a day off.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, you hit teenagers with that logic, you're like, whoa, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Extra day of vacay. Okay, seatbelt on.
You're onto something.
And they will yell at each other if they don't do it.
You're
and you can
definitely-
put a big screen up in the high school for when everyone's pulling in, they'll be like, let me catch somebody not wearing that damn
You know
seatbelt.
what?
Because
That's a really good idea.
you know what I'm talking about? Because where I got that is the 82nd Airborne has a sign at the base. It says if they can go 82 days without killing somebody, they'll get a weekend off. I'm not kidding. We have this in the military. God bless the 82nd, man. They've been around a long time. They're just a tough breed, but whatever. But my point with that is like if you teach if you give them something like that, they'll just do it.
Yeah. That's-
Period.
I mean,
They won't even think twice
Motivation.
about it. Motivation, you give them a day off every 3 months or whatever it is. They'll do it.
yeah. Or we could. What are the kids like these days? I mean, they're all into. I mean, back when Kailee was, they love Starbucks. You know,
Yeah, have something catered to the school.
Right.
Well, you said something earlier that I never really
Chick-fil-A,
thought about.
Raising
I never thought about it. It's like when you have like every day there's a teacher that comes in. That you have one class where there's a random teacher that comes in and teaches you something.
Yeah.
One thing about like gun safety. One thing about car safety and stuff like that.
Yep.
But if you implement those kind of standards, and this is the only reason I know this works because it works with SEALs. Like the Alpha is the most elite. It's like you got to give them a bribe.
Yep. Yeah. Bribe them.
You got to bribe them.
Hey, it's not. And
That's just the way it is. I mean,
It
kids are gonna be kids.
My wheels are turning.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Chick-fil-A or Raising Cane's they would
yeah.
definitely
They go out- they do it on
partner with
purpose.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in fact,
Actually,
yeah,
we do. Raising Cane's
Raising
over
Cane's
there,
has been
not
really
far
good
from
to
the
us.
school,
And then you make it a
actually.
competition between 2 schools.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
And once you start doing that, because the social media makes it a lot easier to connect them, you can connect the screen and have stats. You can make this like a wager thing, like how many kids you going to get. I'm just saying.
I'm glad this is recording because I'm
actually
gonna
a very
I'm
good
gonna go
idea.
back and we're gonna do some more brainstorming. We're gonna have
These
a board
kids are so freaking smart.
They are.
Like they're way ahead of us on that.
Yeah, let them figure it
We're
out.
the last of getting your
Yeah.
faces kicked in by the old like having to figure it out kind of deal.
I mean, we don't know anything. If you ask my teenager, we don't.
Nothing.
We don't know anything.
Nothing. Nothing. Teenagers, bro. I got a 12-year-old thinks I'm the dumbest son of a bitch on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried.
He's looked at me like I know what that look looks like. I give it all the time, and he gave it to me.
Yeah.
How about that? And I got another one over here too, man. Just probably way smarter than me, man. But and her too. But my point is, remember when we were kids though? If someone would have
Oh, yeah.
dropped that on us, I'd have been
Yeah.
like, shit, man.
Yes,
all over
that
us.
is true. It's very true.
I mean, my parents didn't know anything either.
Yeah.
Not until I had kids. Then
Yeah.
they became
Then
geniuses.
gods.
Yeah.
My father is a god to me now. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. You know, that whole cycle of life, man. It's just like we.
Bro, I mean, we're laughing and having a good time in here, but you're lost. Like when I said earlier,
No.
I speak, especially when death's around. I'm real funny about how I talk about it, but I mean, when you guys got into a club, a fraternity,
Not one
around that we don't ever have to. Yeah, I can feel the weight in the heart, like because of that. But that daughter and the kid thing is completely different. That y'all, and not only did you deal with it, there's a saying we have. It's like, hey man, you're gonna get a cross put on you. You better pick it up and carry it, right?
Yep.
How you gonna carry that sucker? And when y'all got y'all's put on you, they're heavy. They got the heaviest one of all. A child dying.
It's
Only God.
I don't wish-
God had to
I
go
wish
through
they
that.
would-
That's like a God pain.
it's
The best way I can describe that, and you guys did it magnificently, and the way you give back and you continue to honor her memory, and we all know who she is. So with that point, it's like taking a role as a parent for all of our kids, because some of us. I heard something the other day that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I've seen this movie a million times. It goes, there's something far worse than a bad man down here, and it's the indifference of good men. And I didn't even know what that meant until recently. And when I heard it loud and clear when they said it that time, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, all right. Good dudes rally up. And when we get hit, we don't go back down. We damn sure don't stand still.
No. I mean, that was I had a choice to make, you know, and it was either wallow in suffering and pain, which that's going to be there anyway.
Anyways,
It's going to be
shit,
there.
that's
either way.
there.
So, I mean, what are you going to do? You going to do something positive with it, or are you going to just let it bring you down, or let it destroy you? And I wasn't going to let it destroy me. I was going to you know, the motivation for me was to make sure, and I know you've heard this, but you know, we all die 2 deaths. And then the first one is when we leave this earth, and the second one is when nobody remembers your name. And as a parent, I'm not going to let her die again. You know, I failed her the first time, and dad's job is to protect their kids. And I feel like, you know, it just I don't know if I'll ever get over it, but feel like I let her down in that regard, but it's not going to happen again.
I mean, as a father, I got that. Look, that's a heavy weight. Look, if you had to get delivered to me for this one reason, right at this very moment right there, don't put that weight on you, man.
Yeah.
No, it's tough, man.
And I know nothing I can say. Well, I get that because I'm standing here with you, and I don't know a pain that you know, but I can I can see it in your face, man. I can see it. Yeah, pain is pain, man. And however, get your ass there. Just don't do that part, all right, bro? I mean, for God's sakes, how you know that is when you're sitting there describing how she went down in that blink of an eye second. Some of the angels down here only get a little bit.
You're right.
And then, no, I am right. This is how this works. They'll get pulled back quick. So the rest of us have to stay in here, so don't feel sorry for something that got pulled back early.
And there's nothing you could have.
Nothing you can do about that.
That was.
You're right, and that's
that is not that is not on you at all, man.
I've played this scenario in my head. There's an infinite amount of choices that could have. You just pick one. I mean, you can't play that game because who's to say that one thing? Man. I mean that all roads didn't lead to here anyway.
Right.
So we did that a long time.
Sure,
ago,
yeah.
And.
Yeah, I mean it's I will say
you're always gonna have your regrets, but that weight you have to, like you can't have that anymore, and that it's hard to like change that mindset.
No, but that is motivation for me is to make sure
that's a father thing. You can't. That's ingrained in that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever shake that, but I will say this: none of this would have been possible. Or if I wouldn't have forgave the kid that was driving the car, that's finding forgiveness in your heart is probably the hardest. I didn't know. I get people that come to us and say, "Oh, I don't know how you do it," and you probably heard this before. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Man, if you'd asked me 6 years ago and you'd have told me your daughter's you're gonna lose your daughter. And you're going to go on to do great things. And you're going to go on to do this and that and build this amazing foundation and company and all this stuff. I would have said, you're crazy. If I lose my daughter, that's the end of me. That's the mentality that I would have had. So I get it when I hear people say, I don't know how you do it, because I'm like, I'm with you. I don't know if I would have been asking the same questions 6 years ago. So,
well, he was not in the very beginning.
No. It wasn't right away.
Told the family, like, you're not coming to the funeral. Like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to anything. Mm-hmm. But we also
and start talking about like after. Oh yeah, I get that.
I wanted him dead.
I understand that.
I mean, that's just an instinct.
You can say that. That's just part of the whole concept of the protection. I get that. That's normal, man.
That you're saying
that was him. He was the driver.
But I will say this: I love that kid with everything. I mean, he's a big part of our family. I mean, like his family and our family.
He's trying to do great things.
And we want the best for that kid. And
he loved Kailee.
He loved
so
her.
much.
He loved
they
our
were
daughter.
Close,
There's nothing I can do to make it worse that he's already put on himself.
Right. I mean, he suffers more than.
We've tried everything to try to, and he's doing well, and I'm glad he is, but he struggles. And we try to do anything we can to, lighten that load for him. But
did you pull it off of him?
Oh yeah, I mean,
No. Did you sat him down, looked him square in the face, pulled that off of him?
I gave him a big hug and told him I loved him, and I talked to him.
It was actually the day of the funeral. He said, "I'm calling him. He needs to come."
All right.
I was like, we're not going into.
He won't shake that unless you do that.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going into this funeral with hatred in my heart. I'm going to send my daughter off to the Lord and to be in heaven, and I'm not going into this with hatred in my heart. And I thought about all the bad things that I've done in life. All the mistakes that I've made. I've done way worse and got away with it, and done way stupider things than that. It just didn't go his way, my whole life flashed before my eyes. I'm sitting there shaving, getting ready for the memorial service, and I'm thinking to myself, it just all those bad things I've done, all those stupid choices that I've made and got away with, and I was like, you know what? It's not fair. I'm a Christian. What is the foundation of my faith? Is it's the Lord's Prayer. Is forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. You know, and it's like, how can I stand before God and ask Him to forgive me if I'm not willing to forgive? And that was the end of it. That all played through my head in a moment's time. And I looked at her. I said, I know what I need to do right now. She was like, they're all looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, and like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm calling Jared's dad right now. And called him up. Said, I want you to know that I forgive your son. I want him to know that. If he wants to come pay his respects, say his goodbyes, we're going to welcome him with open arms. We're going to love on him. We're going to tell him it's going to be okay. We forgive him. You know, and that was the first step. You know, that's towards us, you know, finding any kind of peace and comfort and healing. So I encourage anybody out there that's listening to this, if there's somebody in your life that you're holding hatred or a grudge on, just please consider forgiving that person. I mean, doesn't mean you have to be friends with them. Doesn't mean you have to, be a part of their lives, but just let it go.
Yeah.
It's going to eat you up. So.
How's your son doing?
I mean, I would love to say that he's doing great. You know, he struggles. I mean, he's. I feel like he's a little lost.
He compartmentalized it for a long time, so he became very quiet, everything was internalized, and it's honestly been just recently we've found an amazing therapist, and she's really like helping him, and he's like, I'm ready to start working through it. And so that, you know,
he's had his struggles. This last year's been tough for him, but you know, he's just I think he's shoved everything down for so long and hasn't really processed it, and kind of through therapy he's learning a lot about himself, and I think one of the things we've learned is that he always, you know, he was doing this. He felt like he was doing his part.
He's trying to be strong.
By being strong and not putting anything else on his parents that he sees them struggling, and so he just tried to shove it all down for too long, and it just.
That's how you know you got a good one.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great kid.
If he swallowed that,
he's got a big heart,
and then let that out of it. That's exactly what that is.
He's a great young man, and I think he's got a bright future.
Yeah, just get him back out there, kick him in the butt, get him talking.
You know, that's what has to happen.
You got to kick him in the ass and get him back out there. If that's what he did, that's what that is. He'll be fine.
Yep. And that's been a struggle. It's not fair to him that, you know, we are parents that are trying to parent him with the fear of, you know, we've
I'm sure.
And so
it's reciprocal too. He didn't want to be the kid that does that worries you.
Exactly. I never even thought of it that way.
How about that? You know, I'm talking about like that's got to hit him hard too. So reciprocates.
Well, now I think whenever he turned 17, that was 4 days, you know, after. Well, he realized that he now has outlived her. And I think that really hit him. That was a
trigger for him,
yes,
I think.
That really hit him hard. And David and I struggle because I am like, you know, I'm very fearful. So I'm like, you know, staring at my life 360. I'm like so much on top of him.
She's hawking him. I'm like, man, you gotta let it go, baby.
Like, okay, like you're gonna have to like pull back because you're driving him crazy, and
it's not fair to him, you know.
So I've been having to try to kind of learn that too. You know, it's scary, but you know, you can't.
But it's always going to be there, especially you've been down. Now it's real for us. It's like, you know, a lot of parents are, you know, it's never going to happen to me, and we never in a million years thought it would happen to us. But now that it has, and we realize that this is real, and it just puts a whole new level of fear in you. But you know, it's something, you know, we think we're doing all right.
What advice do you give to other families that have lost children? We have really close friends that have lost a child, and there's this struggle that marriages go through after that, and a lot of them don't make it. Right. What do you suggest?
I was never a guy, never really into that. Didn't just wasn't into it. But it got to a point where it was like, I don't want to lose you. let's figure this out. Let's figure out how to communicate with each other.
Communication is a big one, because he didn't want to say things that would upset me, and I didn't want to say things that would upset him, so we just kind of didn't really talk a whole lot. But therapy, they deal with grief and things like that, and so they can help you with tools.
Give you the tools. I mean,
to like take out and practice at home, and it has really helped us a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I've never been a fan of sitting on a couch pouring my heart out or anything, but like it's when it comes to her, I mean, she's my everything. She's and this is worth fighting for and worth doing whatever it takes to make this last.
It takes some pain for them.
But
They
you're right.
take pain for us.
Yeah,
You're right. I mean, I mean that. Yeah. When you go through something tough in your life, it puts a strain on all your relationships. And
Yeah.
I think it's communication and grace, because David and I also don't grieve the same way. So you kind of have to give each other grace, and understand, like, this is what you need, and I'm going to be here for you, even though maybe it's not what I want to do, or
That's a great point.
So,
well, and you're never going to be in sync on where you're at.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Most couples, when you meet and you get together and you get married, the one thing you haven't gone through together is that part.
yeah.
Yep.
The grief.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like we almost tell them get a puppy first. Just to see how one reacts, and so you can learn. Because because I get quiet when I get pissed.
Right.
Yep.
If something bad starts happening, man, guys like us, we shut down.
Yeah.
And that's just because you don't want to hear what comes out of that.
Yeah. You don't want to regret what you
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we have the ability to change the way you completely look at me.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you have that kind of ability,
Right.
then you got to learn how to keep it in the holster, sheath that weapon, because we grew up like that.
Right.
And when you put us in a situation like that, we can't physically fight.
Yeah.
That's immediately taken away from us.
Yeah, that's off the table.
But we got to get it out of there somewhere. And the ones around us are the ones we love the most. This is the hardest thing for guys like us, man.
I will say, like the understanding that, like, there is moments where I'm okay and she's not, or vice versa, and just being there, just being there for that person, and learning, like knowing when to keep your mouth shut,
Yeah.
But not trying to find that there's a fine line. There's got to be a balance. It's like, when do I keep my mouth shut and when do I say something? And so those are the kind of things that we went to therapy to learn, and I think it's really helped us. So to answer your question, I'm not an expert. I know the best advice that I would have is work on your communication.
Yeah.
Work on how to communicate with each other effectively, and find out what needs need to be met on both sides. So.
Well, thank y'all for sharing your story. I mean, cried through the whole thing.
I'm sorry.
And no, it's
How do we tell people to follow you? What do we need to do to make sure
how
that?
can people help your foundation?
The best way, I think, is go to KaileeMillsFoundation.org, and everything's on there. It shows everything we've done. It has dates on there for things that are coming up. It talks about the scholarships, about Kailee. And
I mean, the best way that people can help us is by having a conversation, with their loved ones about
Buckling up.
buckling up.
Yeah.
It's really, ask yourself why. You always got to find out what is your why. Why do you do this? Or who? Who in your life would miss you the most if something happened to you? And that's how. I mean, it's all this is. Raising awareness is it's about creating conversations and reminding people what's important. And we're on social media, YouTube, whatever, Facebook, Instagram, whatever else is out there. I'm sure we have. It's
grown a lot bigger than y'all know.
Yeah, I mean, that's an honor to know that, and we hear these stories. This is another motivation, is hearing these stories of people that reach out and they say, "Hey, I was in a crash, and I had my seatbelt on, and I may not have had my seatbelt on had I not heard your story." And so that's the fuel that keeps us going. So
A glimpse into the future of how many lives your daughter would have touched, right? She's still doing that.
I would have never.
So imagine that.
Never would have imagined, and I'm excited to see where this thing goes in the next.
She must have been something.
she definitely was.
And I will say this: the community that rallied around this thing it's not because of me.
Right.
It's not because of her. It's because of who she was.
man.
She was just a genuine person.
Every time I talk
how you know.
about her, I'm
Yep.
like, I wish you'd have gotten to know her. Like, she was awesome.
Yeah.
And I know everybody probably says that about their kids, you know?
Yeah, every parent thinks that about their
mean-
kids, and I'm not discounting that.
No.
I'm saying that our kid's better than anybody else's,
No,
but
she definitely
that's-
was someone that you would remember for sure. Like, just, she had that personality.
Well, that's who God takes too to teach
true.
lessons and to
Very
help
true.
others.
And that is a lesson that I have really struggled with, but I'm really starting to come to terms with, you know, this is what she's meant to do, you know, like this is her purpose.
she is able to impact way more lives
Yeah.
now than I think she would have had she
She set a
lived out her
standard.
life. Yeah.
A marker.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It hits harder when something like that gets removed.
Yes.
With the losses that he's endured in the SEAL teams, a lot of the guys, I mean, they were just like the best guys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So you got to take what they stood for.
Yeah.
Like each one of them bring out one thing in there.
yeah.
Like the guy's like, hey, when that sucker walks in, you know something happens to you.
Right.
Like it can just light you up.
Yep.
And if you're lucky enough to come across them, be around them's the best.
Exactly.
If you're
100%.
fortunate enough. Most of us aren't fortunate enough to be around them. So when they finally get taken back, you got to take what they left you.
Right.
That's the only reason why they're here. When they say, when we're growing up, it's like, hey man, you just got a sign to watch out for her.
Yeah.
That's Jesus' kid.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so like
She
we
was
got to
only
make
here-
sure this is what we do. They're here for this amount of time. We don't even know that.
Right.
How long they're here for.
we don't get to decide.
We don't
that
decide that, and don't play it off like, oh, I would have been paying attention more. Don't put that on you either.
Yep.
Right.
Business is like, man, get done what gets done. Then when she's removed, which by the way you sound, by the way you told me what happened, that's exactly, sounds to me like, I mean, it was a blessing to have her, and she got pulled out of here quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I would give anything to have her back.
Sure.
But at the same time, you know, making the best out of a terrible situation is a choice, and that's the choice we've made.
Well, thank y'all
Wow.
again for coming
Thank you
on.
so much, David and Wendy, for coming down. We really appreciate you coming down here, and thank you for telling this heartbreaking story. But really glad to see that it's turning lives and changing the lives of so many other people out there. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening in, and we'll see you next week.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.